Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. As Catholic Charities lays out its plan to buy the Quality Inn Hotel on Sunset Highway, more neighbors are speaking out against the project, including one developer who says he is putting plans to build more apartments in that area on hold now. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk joining us live in the newsroom with more. Kyle?
Well, he and others in the neighborhood say they learned about these plans from our report a few weeks ago, and that Catholic Charities essentially blindsided them. The Department of Commerce has given Catholic Charities the funds needed to buy the hotel, and tonight we're learning more about the plans moving forward.
And this lot is adjacent between our office building and the Quality Inn.
Gib Brumbach had big plans for this empty lot he bought several months ago, plans to build a 5-story, 72-unit complex. But when he found out what Catholic Charities is planning to do with the hotel next door,
this project is now on hold.
Brumbach also owns this office building right next to the Quality Inn.
This neighborhood is going to explode in positive growth, which has not been here for literally 2 or 3 decades. And it's happening right now. And it may be stopping right now.
Catholic Charities is moving forward with plans to buy the Quality Inn and turn it into an emergency supportive housing community.
It's really intended to quickly stabilize people, support them, hold them accountable, and then help them exit into a permanent housing solution.
The project, called The Catalyst, will have room for 100 homeless men and women, some of them from the homeless camp near I-90 in Freya, ready to make a change in their lives. Residents will need to be referred from other service providers, and they'll also be screened and selected based on their likelihood of success in housing.
This program does have accountability for residents, and so if folks staying with us are not able to meet those participation and engagement requirements, we will be able to ask them to leave.
Catholic Charities is now waiting on a second round of funding from the Department of Commerce to retrofit the building, install a fence around the property, and add more security cameras and lights in the parking lot.
They can talk about fencing their property, and what they're saying now means nothing to me.
Brumbach says he was never given a heads up about the project. So does West Hills Neighborhood Council Vice Chair William Hagee.
The word Catholic Charities entering into the arena had frightened so many people. We had no indication any of this was happening. Any of the residents, even the West Hills Neighborhood Council.
Catholic Charities says there's a reason for that. The owner of the hotel didn't want them talking to neighbors or the news.
That the seller had concerns about that news being made public and potential impact on employees. And so there was an agreement to not talk publicly about the possibility of that acquisition.
And if Catholic Charities is awarded the second portion of these funds, they expect the Catalyst building to open within 60 days. In the newsroom, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. And now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. The Washington Department of Commerce and the Empire Health Foundation announced plans today to start moving people out of that homeless camp near I-90 in Freya.
There needs to be coordination between the services, the outreach and engagement, and then the kinds of housing options that are available.
Commerce gave Empire Health $500,000. The money will be used to coordinate outreach and develop a plan for safer and better living conditions. Spokane city leaders hope it'll provide more long-term solutions for people staying at that camp. Today, KREM 2 sat down with the president of Empire Health Foundation to talk about how the funds will be used. Zeke Smith says it would be ideal to move people before the end of the summer, but it may take more time to find a place to meet the required needs. Last month, the city of Spokane submitted a $25 million plan to the Department of Commerce. The $500,000 given to Empire Health comes from that pool of funds. Smith says Empire Health will submit an operations plan coming up in the next 2 weeks. In other news tonight, a 12-year-old girl was behind the wheel of a car involved in a crash this morning. It happened at East 9th Avenue and South Helena Street in the South Perry district. According to police, the 12-year-old driver ran a stop sign, hit another car, and then crashed into a power pole. The other car veered into the front yard of a house near that intersection. One person in the other car hit by the young girl was taken to hospital with minor injuries.
It does look like there were multiple individuals he was involved in. Some of them were employees at the time or currently employees.
2 years ago, WSU Police Command staff learned one of its officers allegedly engaged in sexual activities while on duty. That command staff conducted an internal investigation instead of reporting it to the university, and now they face possible termination for this. The chief, assistant chief, and captain all plan to retire as a result. Coming up in 10 minutes, what documents detail about the inappropriate activity that allegedly happened. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just text us the word night to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them directly to your phone. New tonight, the Hayden City Council passed a motion that would add 6 additional deputies to Hayden. That would bring the total number to 10. The motion also calls for council to add a ballot measure on the November election ballot to fund the increase in deputies. In addition to the motion, it recommends the City Council create a public safety commission to advise the council on public safety issues. All right, let's transition to weather now because we avoided triple digits today thanks to some cloud cover, and at times it felt like it might rain tonight. Let's get outside right now to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Lagoon. Jeremy, will we see any rain in our future?
Mark, get this. Right now, standing on the back patio, around me, there are sprinkles coming down. A couple of stray sprinkles, but get this, temperatures kind of reflect what's going on in the atmosphere. A couple of 70s farther down to the south where we've seen that moisture. But look at Spokane, even Deer Park and Coeur d'Alene, moisture in the atmosphere is keeping our temperatures in the mid and upper 70s. It's kind of warm, but yes, we do have a few sprinkles coming down, and let's talk about them because earlier we had a push of storms that was working its way toward us. And that thing got kind of interesting. It fell apart. I'll explain why it fell apart coming up in just a bit. But as it regathers itself, that is going to work its way toward us. And I think overnight we do wind up seeing a little bit of moisture out of this. That'll spread in early tomorrow morning and then move out as the sun comes up. Tomorrow afternoon, it's the threat of severe weather in central Washington that we are going to focus on. Basically what happens is that taps into the heat. We don't cool down much more tonight. We fall into the low 70s, and by tomorrow afternoon, we're back in the 90s, which gives that push of moisture some energy to tap into. We're talking the threat of dry thunderstorms and even full-on rainy thunderstorms coming up in the full forecast.
Sounds good, Jeremy. We'll talk to you then. In other news tonight, former Seattle Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch was arrested in Las Vegas for allegedly driving under the influence. Las Vegas Metro Police say they stopped a vehicle driven by Lynch early this morning near the Strip, and they determined the 36-year-old was impaired. He was booked into jail for driving under the influence. This follows an announcement by the Seahawks just yesterday that Lynch would act as a special correspondent for the team later this season, creating content for a variety of projects. No word right now on if the future position might be impacted by the arrest. In your national news tonight, there is more fallout today after the FBI seized boxes of documents from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
The president was not briefed, was not aware of it. The Justice Department conducts investigations independently, and we leave any law enforcement matters to them.
Congressional Republicans slamming the Justice Department now and calling for investigations one day after the FBI searched former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Florida residence. Sources tell CBS News the search was connected to a Justice Department investigation of claims by the National Archives that it found 15 boxes of records, including classified material, at Mar-a-Lago earlier this year. Executing a search warrant on a former president has never been done before, and given the political nature of the search, approval likely came from the very top of the FBI and the Department of Justice. The U.S. government is making a giant investment in the tiniest of things, chips. President Biden signed the CHIPS and Science Act today in an effort to boost U.S. competitiveness over China in the semiconductor industry.
Just the complexity of technology that it takes years to put capacity on. And I think for the better part of the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be chasing supply in this industry.
The $280 billion CHIPS and Science Act includes around $52 billion in subsidies for U.S. computer chip companies, $24 billion in tax credits for new manufacturing facilities, and tens of billions of dollars for research and development. But these investments are not likely to solve the pandemic-induced global shortages, at least right away. Chips are needed for just about everything we use these days, from cars and consumer electronics to medical equipment and military weapons, even kitchen appliances. And modern living is putting increasing pressure on those tiny chips. A recent Commerce Department report found demand for chips was as much as 17% higher in 2021 than it was back in 2019. And that was your KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where you get more news in less time. But don't go to bed just yet. After the break, why 3 members of the WSU Police Department are leaving their jobs following disciplinary action of a fellow officer. We are back in 90 seconds.